Hello and welcome to Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin and this is a show where we put our property experts to task answering your questions. Joining me today is Sabina Thorpe, property developer, co-founder of Refurb-ed, property refurb education providers. And joining Sabina is Bobbie Jethwa, CEO and Director of UK Property Agents. Welcome to you both. Good. Hope you had a good trip down, Sabina.
Yes, we did, thank you.
All the way from Manchester?
Yes, that's right, really all the way up north,
Jolly good.
as you call it.
Good to see you, good to see you. Well, I'm from somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
Bobbie, you're going first. Your question is
Okay.
this. I have a property which has been on the market now for some months without success. I have been approached by an agency asking if I would enter into a let-to-let agreement with a guaranteed purchase at the end of at a predetermined price, and that would be after 5 years. Have the panel any advice or guidance they could offer to give me some comfort regarding this kind of transaction? I do need to do something with the property.
Right. Well, I think the sticky point in that question is the predetermined price. So if you were to sign a 5-year let-to-let, the sticking point would be the depending on how the company has done their lease with the owners. I mean, they could potentially agree a price, and that would be on the clause that once the 5 years is over, they then can purchase at that price. And after 5 years, maybe prices go 20% more than what they were 5 years, or 20% less. So that at this moment in time, yeah, of course, I mean, with the way the markets are, yeah, probably 10% less. We hope, but
Anything's
It's quite funny. I
isn't
had somebody said, I said to somebody the other day, I've got quite an expensive flat over the road here, and they said, no, you used to have an expensive flat over the road here.
Exactly.
It's not
You don't anymore.
No. So yeah, you've got to be a bit careful with regards to that kind of agreement, because the let-to-let part is perfect. I mean, that's something you should do. I mean, if the property is sitting empty and you're not getting the tenants, then you've got a company that's taking it for 5 years, giving you the rent, you're servicing your mortgage. It's absolutely fine. The sticky part is where they agree a predetermined amount for the sale of it at the end. Depending on that clause, is that something that most people would do? I can't see that really.
I mean, the thing that would worry me is how you secure any funds for that, or to know that they've got the wherewithal to do it at the end.
Exactly. So that could pose a few problems going forward, I think. So maybe they do the let-to-let 5 years, and then they could have they could decide whether they want to sell it to that company at that time. So they should have that open-ended situation rather than a closed off, right? It's already predetermined, and we have to buy at that price.
Well, Bobbie, obviously one of the attractions is you get a guaranteed rental for probably a longer period of time than you would normally.
Yeah.
But would you expect to have to give a discount on the rental during that period?
I suppose you would. I think, yeah, probably would have to give a bit of a discount.
And what would you expect that to be? Would it be 5%, 10%?
I think maybe 5 to 10, maximum 10% discount on there. Yeah, I mean that would be the other part. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good.
I think the other part really of that is actually something called a purchase lease option as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think?
I think that
can be
instated, but I think again it depends on if it's a purchase lease, it should be determined on the price at the time of the purchase,
yes.
not predetermined prior. So I mean, 5 years is quite a long time, and markets can change.
It's a clever person that can work it out.
Yeah, absolutely. They got their crystal ball fired up, then they'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
With a purchase lease really option, you agree really all of the terms, such as you agree a
fixed rent, yes,
purchase
yes,
price really as it is today, and then you agree to pay really a certain amount rent really every
month, yeah.
Month, don't you? For 3 years, it can be for 5 years or 10 years even. So I've done this, you see. That's why I was saying it. We bought a hotel, but short-term purchase lease really agreement to say that we will buy this really at a certain price in really a year's time, really after we get planning. So we were waiting for the planning
that's on
to
a
come
commercial
through.
property, isn't it? Rather,
Yes, but it
would you?
can be done really on a residential as
okay.
well.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
great. All right, Sabina, your question. When the government brings in compulsory energy efficiency rating standards, will existing properties need to be upgraded immediately? I'm thinking of the disruption to tenancies and indeed tenants while this work goes on. How's that going to be handled?
Well, I think really if we take a step back really and just kind of look at the background really of this EPC. So in 2015, new laws were brought in by the MEES, which is the minimum energy efficiency standards of all of the private rental market, and they said you need to bring every property really up to EPC E. And I think they said by 2018 all of the new tenancies had to be bought really up to EPCE, and by 2020 really all of the existing tenancies. But in, I think it was really autumn 2020, the government started a consultation to tighten these guidelines as well, but there's been no regulations yet. But the consultation paper says that by you need to bring your EPC from E to C. Now we have until 2025 for new tenancies. So people that are doing their refurbs now, future proof them, such as doors, windows, really insulation as well. And then you've got until 2028 to get your really existing tenancies up from EPC to C. Now, HMOs have a high turnover, don't they?
Yeah,
so after six months to a year, really as soon as that tenant moves really out, we upgrade that room because then you are doing it bit by bit and you are spreading the
So really, you've got anything really up to
cost
sort
as
of
well.
5 year spread, haven't you? Really?
You have, yes, to get it sorted, really.
Anything to add to that, Bobbie?
Yeah, no, I think Sabina's covered quite a bit of that. Yeah.
Do you see it causing any major problems?
I can't see it. No, I think it's with the tenants, I suppose, to get all the stuff into place, you need to sort of work in advance, I suppose, with the tenants to give them an adequate notice.
I was going to say, I suppose the only thing is in sort of an HMO, if you're doing it room by room, it's going to be pretty disruptive for a fair period. I mean, I don't think I'd want to rent somewhere where they're refurbing 2 rooms next door.
I mean, it's all about moving the the tenants and giving them sort of temporary accommodation while that place is done. So you'll have to forecast budgets for that kind of situation in order to get the works done.
I mean, like most things in life, if you plan for it, it works.
Absolutely,
Exactly,
yeah.
Steve.
This is it.
You need to
You've got to plan
for
ahead.
it.
It's always the case.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's all we've got time for in this half of the show. So join me again after the break when we'll be asking Sabina and Bobbie more of your questions. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time with Sabina Thorpe and Bobbie Jethwa. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Bobbie, your second question. Do the experts think that collectively house price inflation, interest rates and the cost of living indexes will rise or hopefully fall in sync? If so, where do they see these indicators going over the next couple of years? So have you brought your crystal ball?
No, I haven't fired that one up yet, Stephen. But that is a crystal ball question. I mean, who knows really? I mean,
do you think they all will work in tandem?
I think so. I mean, it's inflation with what's going on in the war going on in Ukraine. I think that's pretty much one of the, and then us Brexiting. So there's a lot of fundamentals are all happening at the same sort of time, which is the reason why we are where we are. So going forward, hopefully things start settling down. We, sort of get the government gets their act together and
well, that's optimistic.
Well, we can only be optimistic at the moment, Stephen. That's the key,
I think the thing that worries me more than anything is that this time around, the causes of inflation and the difficulties are not the norm. And yet, the Bank of England, for instance, is just trying to fight it with the same old thing, which is rising interest rates.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that that's that appropriate.
No, I can't see that carrying. I mean, how much can they carry on increasing to bring down the inflation? I mean, it's just not going to be viable. Cost of living is massive at the moment. Gas, electricity bills are, astronomical. So, I mean, there needs to be a way to get around this inflation, and I don't think the answer is just simply raising interest rates to hurt the people that are, obviously investors and first-time buyers. They all gonna, they're feeling the pinch.
What do you think the key factor is in the rising rents all over the place? What's pushing that so much?
Well, interest rates, I think, because obviously the owners have to pay a lot more than they were. I mean, everyone got very comfortable with the rates that we had. I mean, suddenly it was
a little bit too comfortable sometimes.
I mean, we had that for many years. So seeing that, I think, that is the biggest driver for rents going up, because obviously everyone wants to service their lending and also carry on making what they were making previously. But if everyone sort of says, okay, well, if we can just do the lending for the time being, then the rents can start, and people have to then share accommodation a lot more. So you're finding a lot of sharers going into houses or flats now, and because they can't afford to pay the whole rent by themselves. So depending on the salaries.
Is this going to mean more HMOs?
Much more HMOs, I think, because that's where the side is going at the moment. That's where the outlook is, I think, with the HMOs and people with multiple occupants sitting in one flat, and I think this is.
What about these sort of very high spec, sort of shared living accommodations as opposed to HMOs, rather more sort of technically advanced places, with super kitchens, super lounges, and.
Well, they would obviously when they first move in, they would go through all the checks and these things through the agency that they use, and it would be a case of those guys knowing each other for many years, that they would be living there, and they obviously have better paid jobs for them to afford that kind of living. But then the problem is, if one person's life changes and they have to leave, then the other person's left, and these kind of things happen too.
It's a huge turnover of people.
It's always a constant turn. Yeah. Exactly. So this is where the issues are going forward. And I mean, I don't know with the crystal ball at the moment. Who knows what's coming up our way? But I mean, we didn't predict this was going to happen either. So,
best guess, do you think it's going to go up or down in the next 2 years?
What's that? The prices?
Well, just inflation in general,
Infla-
affecting
I
prices and costs.
I think with the interest rates coming, I think it will start leveling itself out. I think it will level out, and then hopefully, everyone's fingers crossed that it starts
Fuel
coming back
costs are
down.
beginning to come down.
Well,
Aren't
fuel. I noticed that actually the other day. The fuel prices are coming down. Diesel's gone down a bit, so that sort of kind of makes sense.
I think petrol seems to have come down probably maybe even as much as 20 pence a litre, I think.
Yeah, it has, because it reached almost like just under £2.
Yeah.
And now it's like 150 or something, or 170.
Well, see, oil's at about, I think, $85, $86 today.
Yes.
But I read some time ago that the Saudis would want to keep it at about 80 because their economy is based on a sort of $80 a barrel price. So probably there's not going to be too much more movement there. But
Sure.
I'd prefer it just remains stable, wouldn't you? I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just us. It is a global situation at the moment. So it's not just England or the UK. It is the rest of the world is also in the downside. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Oh well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Be optimistic.
Okay, Sabina, your question. I'm currently trying to finance my latest proposed project, which is a buy-to-let investment requiring a complete refurbishment. My broker tells me that the valuations are coming back as nil, as the amount of work required causes the property to fall below the lending criteria during the period of works. Any advice would be appreciated. Now, just to explain to our viewers what happens in this kind of situation, you go into a property which has a worth, whatever it is, high or low. You start taking the roof off, you start stripping the kitchens out and all sorts of things. And at that very point, the value becomes unacceptable to a lender. And so you've got a problem. So you either need a very understanding lender or a very good QS who keeps them quiet.
Correct.
With the right drawdown certificates. Have I got it right, Sabina?
Yes, you have there, Stephen. And I would also like to actually say that, finance companies tend to have different different criteria of lending compared to bridging, for example. Now, that is a short-term loan for a short period really of time. So maybe we have a look at bridging lending, or even a private investor, somebody who has the money sat there in their bank, and you just agree terms with them. And I guess the other thing is that, are you set on that being a buy to let? Because you could add value by turning that into a mini mo, which is a smaller version of a HMO, so like 3, 4, 5 rooms, or think about turning that into a serviced accommodation, such as Airbnb.
Wouldn't you need special planning consent though for sort of serviced apartments or Airbnb operations? You certainly would in this area.
It's not for planning purposes. So if you're looking to turn it really into a mini mo, you need 6 or more rooms before you need to actually speak to the planning team. Turning it really into serviced accommodation, you can do that
without planning.
You need to change the change of
use.
Yes, change of use. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm presuming that if you've got a refurb program to do, and there is going to be some question over the value during that program. I'm guessing that probably Bridgers would be more amenable to that kind of operation, because you very specifically say to them, look, I need it for 6 months, whatever it is. Here's the program of works. Here's what I'm expecting at the end, and they just go on that. Whereas perhaps your local bank manager is not going to be so keen on that, is he?
No, because the banks can be quite strict in terms of their criteria of lending.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you come across this, Bobbie?
No, I can't say I have, but yeah, I would say bridging would be the way to go with this kind of, and it depends on the product and the clauses within the lending that the finance company that has given you the lending for. So yeah, you've got to be really careful. But yeah, there are products out there, and those are the ones that it's a short-term thing, because you're just taking everything out and then you're putting everything back in, and you can go back to the.
Bobbie, it's the same old thing,
so.
isn't it? Build a good team around you, and that does include a good
Yes,
broker.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely need good brokers and good lawyers.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to say thank you to Sabina Thorpe, property developer, co-founder of Refurb-ed, property education providers. Thank you very much for coming in today, Sabina. Bobbie Jethwa, CEO, Director of UK Property Agents, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Stephen.
Great answers to the questions. Thank you both very much. I'm sure everybody is most grateful to receive your expertise.
Thank you.
So I'm Stephen Galpin. Join me again next time on Property Question Time, and I look forward to seeing you then.